In their book, The Changing World of Mormonism, Gerald and Sandra Tanner attempt to make a conflict in the LDS scriptures over the issue of cursing. They reference 3 Nephi chapter 12, verses 43 and 44, where Christ teaches the Sermon on the Mount to the Nephites about loving one's enemies and blessing them that curse you. They also mention Romans chapter 12, verse 14, where Paul says, "Bless them which persecute you, bless, and curse not." They contrast that with what is written in Doctrine and Covenants section 103, verses 24 and 25. "And inasmuch as mine enemies come against you to drive you from my goodly land, which I have consecrated to be the land of Zion, even from your own lands after these testimonies, which ye have brought before me against them, ye shall curse them, and whomsoever ye curse, I will curse, and ye shall avenge me of mine enemies." Seems like a simple contradiction, but sometimes things are a little more complicated than they appear. Obviously, loving your enemies and praying for them is generally the best policy. It is very easy for people like the Tanners to criticize Latter-day Saints in the 19th century for having some bad feelings and anger towards their enemies. The Tanners have not experienced losing their homes or friends or family to persecutions. Perhaps if they experienced such situations, they would understand the life and death situations the early saints experienced. The major problem with the Tanners' line of reasoning is that Jesus, Peter, and Paul in the New Testament does in fact pronounce curses, so this teaching is not absolute in all cases. Jesus cursed a fig tree that had no fruit in Matthew 21:18-20. Peter curses people who are living in sinful lifestyles in 2 Peter 2:14. Paul pronounces curses in Galatians 1:8 and 9 and 1 Corinthians 16:22 against those who do not love Jesus Christ or preaches another gospel. In both instances, Paul uses the Greek word anathema. In the New Testament, it is translated as accursed 4 times, anathema 1 time, and bind under a great curse 1 time. What is interesting is that Galatians 1:8 and 9 is commonly used by Christian critics of the Church. They claim that Latter-day Saints teach another gospel and use this exact passage. With this passage, they are cursing Latter-day Saints. I would predict that the Tanners have used this passage a time or two in their lives against the LDS Church and its members. A short search and I found articles where they use Galatians 1:8 and 9 as part of their criticism of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with a claim we teach another gospel. Sandra Tanner herself curses the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints by using Galatians 1:8 and 9. So apparently she feels the need to curse when it fits her needs. The Tanners give examples of Latter-day Saints cursing their enemies in the 19th century. Curses I judge to be understandable given the circumstances behind them. I don't understand why she does not show a little empathy for their situation. Perhaps Sandra Tanner would like to lecture Jesus, Peter, and Paul, since apparently they did not live up to her standards. Standards she herself has a hard time living. A couple of examples she cites will be covered here. They give this example. Benjamin F. Johnson admitted that in Missouri we were taught to pray for our enemies, that God would damn them, and give us power to kill them. Apostle George A. Smith said, "We were then very pious, and we prayed the Lord to kill the mob." I guess it is not appropriate for people to pray to the Lord to avenge them of the actions of their enemies. Is this really much different from what the righteous dead say to the Lord in Revelation 6:10? "How long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth?" Using the standards of the Tanners, one could ask if the righteous dead in Revelation 6:10 should show more love and not ask the Lord to have their blood avenged. Perhaps those that are dead should read their book and love their killers instead of asking for vengeance. The Tanners give this example. Apostle George A. Smith said, "We were then very pious, and we prayed the Lord to kill the mob." There is a lot more to the story than the edited version shows. George A. Smith said, "We were a pious people in those days, but, notwithstanding our piety, our neighbors soon talked of mobbing us. They had already tarred and feathered the prophet Joseph and Sidney Rigdon, and they threatened us with mobbing and expulsion. As I remarked, we were then very pious, and we prayed the Lord to kill the mob. It was but a little time before the saints were driven out of Jackson County, Missouri, the printing press destroyed, men tarred and feathered, women ravished, and men, women, and children scattered to the four winds of heaven, all in consequence of our religion. I think most reasonable people would understand why they would pray the Lord would kill the mob. They just wanted to live in peace. Is that too hard for the Tanners to understand? Thank you for your time.